Hello and welcome to another TLDR global video. This beautiful palace on the mountainside might set you back $1.37 billion, but with 40 acres of land attached, gold-plated bathrooms, private cinemas and indoor pools, what more could you ask for? In recent weeks, reports have begun to emerge about Putin's $1.37 billion home. Yes, you heard that right, billion with a B. Boris Johnson's central London home on Downing Street is estimated to be worth $5.3 million. Biden's Washington residence is set to be worth around $400 million. But $1.37 billion? Putin certainly must be living well. However, this isn't just some frivolous house measuring contest. In Russia, these revelations about Putin's house have been really significant, with him even denying that the house is his own. That's because the idea of Putin owning, yes, he supposedly owns that place, it's not a temporary residence like it is for Johnson or Biden, really taps into Russia's growing fear of corruption. So in this video, we'll discuss what's been said about this over $1 billion home, why it's actually really important for Russian politics, and how it may have played into the arrest of Russia's opposition leader, Alexei Navalny. Now, if you're not familiar with Navalny, you clearly haven't been keeping up with the Global Summary, our weekly update of everything big that's going on in the world. In just 8 minutes, I run you through some of the world's biggest events, giving you all the details you need. And if you get interested in any of the stories, we also provide full citations and resources to help you find out more. If you're interested in this series, then check out the latest episode, which is linked in the description. But also make sure to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are released. So there's a lot of politics and intrigue behind this story and the palace. But indulge us here for a second. I've always wanted to host one of those Architectural Digest videos. This property, which would set you back a cool $1.37 billion, is nestled within 40 acres of lush forest, overlooking the splendour of the Black Sea. Styled after the vacation mansions of 18th century Russian tsars, the views from this property are certain to take your breath away as you drive up the expansive driveway. The grandeur doesn't end at the door though, with the palace boasting lavish courtyards, ornate decorative features and grand columns. You might be out in the forest, but don't worry, safety is paramount at this oceanside retreat. The entire property is surrounded by wrought iron fences, and if that sounds a little austere, then don't worry, they also feature solid gold accents, including an impressive imperial eagle. Those fences don't mean that the property's inaccessible though, with the resort boasting 3 different helicopter landing pads, so this is the perfect spot to easily drop into with some mates at the weekend. Due to the incredibly private current owners, we can't show you much of the inside of this property, but if leaked images are anything to go by, it's certainly not going to need much renovation, and you're not going to run out of gold anytime soon. These beautiful floor plans give you an idea of what can be found within. Starting on the ground floor, you can see a huge variety of rooms flanking the stunning central courtyard. These include a lavish indoor swimming pool, massage rooms, a barbershop and cosmetologist, a cinema room, a wine tasting vault with attached tasting room, and multiple staff rooms. Moving up to the first floor, you'll find a fully equipped gym and meeting rooms when you want to work hard, and music rooms, entertainment rooms, a casino and a home theatre for when you want to play hard. Now that really is a home theatre. The second floor includes beautiful views from the front terrace, as well as a winter garden for the cold Russian nights. It's also where you'll find a number of bedrooms and living spaces, but most importantly, in the bottom corner of the property, it boasts Putin's own lavish sleeping quarters. But wait a second. Didn't we just say the owner of this property is private, and then show you a detailed floor plan of the house and photos of some of the key rooms? Well, they weren't photos, and this isn't necessarily 100% accurate. The floor plan is a mock-up based on all of the information and documentation we have about the property. The interior design and mock-ups are based on leaked images that we do have from the building, and when you look at how accurately some of those images have been recreated, they've probably done a decent job. I was joking earlier when I said I wanted to live my Architectural Digest fantasy, but as any fans of that channel will know, the owners of these beautiful, huge houses aren't normally shy about showing them off. So what's different about this one? Well, Vladimir Putin has repeatedly denied owning this palatial home. When a video leaked earlier in the year revealing the extent of this palace's opulence, a video seen by over 100 million people, Putin downplayed the video, saying that it was boring and that nothing listed there as my property belongs to me or my close relatives, and never did. Another potential owner has stepped forward in the last week though. Russian oligarch Arkady Rotenberg. Rotenberg, speaking to the pro-Kremlin news outlet MASH, said that the property was indeed his, saying that he managed to strike a deal with the creditors a few years ago, and I became a beneficiary of this site a few years ago. As the owner of one of the country's biggest construction firms, it's certainly reasonable that Rotenberg could own the estate. However, as a childhood friend and judo partner of Putin, it's also possible that he's covering for his mate. And many aren't too keen to accept Putin's denials. This isn't just cynicism and conspiracy though. 8 times in the past, Putin has denied owning a property before it was later revealed that he did own it. So while this billion-dollar palace would be the biggest lie yet, the leader does have some history when it comes to lying about property. But why though? $1.37 billion might be a lot to spend on a house, but why would Putin go to such efforts to deny owning it? If Trump owned it, he sure as hell wouldn't have bothered denying it during his presidency. Well, the issue for Putin comes down to corruption. For years now, Russia's leader has been marred with controversy surrounding corruption and financial irregularities. A billion-dollar custom-built home is certainly problematic then. It raises more questions about Putin's finances and really leads people to wonder where this money could have come from. It's not unusual for world leaders to be millionaires. Johnson's estimated net worth sits at $5.2 million, Biden at $9 million, Merkel at $11, Trudeau $13, Macron $31.5, and Xi Jinping is supposedly worth $1.5 billion, with a bunch of other African and South American leaders also breaking into the billionaires club. Putin supposedly sits far above all of these people though, with an estimated net worth of $200 billion. Well, that's a number which changes depending on who you ask, but Hermitage Capital Management CEO did testify to the US's Senate Judiciary Committee that he believed that Putin did have $200 billion, making him the richest man in the world. The issue is that this just doesn't sit well with many ordinary Russians, who want to know how the former KGB operative became the richest man in the world. I mean, I don't really understand how Elon Musk is worth nearly $200 billion, despite struggling to manufacture cars, but it really is a head-scratcher to work out how Putin did it. Well, don't scratch your head for too long, because Putin's opponents have a clear and simple answer to that question: corruption. All of the images, floor plans and mock-ups we showed you earlier were actually from a site called palace.navalny.com. Yes, that's the same Navalny as the opposition leader that Russia imprisoned a few days ago, but we'll come back to that. Anyway, this site and the campaign allege that Putin was able to afford the property because of, in their words, the biggest bribe in history. A bribe they say was worth $1.37 billion, money which was then funneled into the property. Now, the site we mentioned earlier goes into more detail about the bribes, outlining the full allegations. However, the core argument is that Russia's government has corruption running to its core, with a pay-for-access model well and truly in place, and that's how they allege Putin paid for this property. Even without the details of the bribe, it's easy to see why Putin would resist these claims. With Navalny's popularity growing in the country and increasing resentment towards the government and perceived corruption, the emergence of a billion-dollar mansion doesn't exactly make you look humble and innocent. Ultimately though, just weeks after the release of this report, and major protests in support of Navalny, protests rejecting government corruption, Navalny was jailed by the Russian government. They claim this sentence was the result of parole violations, but many across the international community, from Boris Johnson to the US's Secretary of State, have denounced it as a politically motivated imprisonment. Regardless of who owns the house, and if this mock-up of a hookah lounge featuring a strip pole is accurate, it's clear that these allegations, and the wildly popular video that accompanied it, stirred up some real discontent in the country. Whether or not this directly led to Navalny's arrest, and whether these corruption claims will really cause an uprising in Russia, can be debated, and ultimately we'll have to see what happens going forward. But if Putin does want to offload the property at a severely reduced rate, then I'd be open to talks. What, it's got a fancy pool and stuff? Be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever we release future videos like this one, and for more updates on this Russia saga. Also, a special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too should back us on Patreon. The link to that's in the description.